How's it going, everyone? I know we're at the last little stretch of the day before we get to enjoy what Ravi has planned for us, so I appreciate you brave souls sticking around for this final presentation. As Ina said, I'm at AWS as a partner solution architect. I work really closely with Adobe as our biggest software partner on my team, and I'm specifically focused on the Experience Cloud product, so I'm really excited to speak with you a little bit today about what we're looking forward to with respect to commerce on AWS. So I think it's helpful to take a step back and look at some of the history over the last few decades. It's crazy to think that, it used to take several weeks for a product to come in the mail from an online order, but you see some of the technologies underpinning some of the trends and companies that have really laid out the foundation and the stages that we've seen evolve over the last 4 decades or so. So in infancy, you have some of the web, initial technologies like HTML, and then emergence to maturity with the types of systems that are still around today, but they've been optimized and now maybe consolidated as we've seen over the last few decades. So the big thing, obviously, at AWS is machine learning, trying to give the power of Amazon's machine learning practices. We're going to cover a few of those today. So let's go ahead and look at some more recent stats. The pandemic obviously changed commerce for most of us. I know personally I was buying things online that I never dreamed of buying online, like toilet paper. But some of these other stats speak for themselves with respect to some of the changes in behavior. And as merchants and as brands, it's imperative to be able to respond to these types of things in order to maintain customer relationships, keep that trust that you've built, and acquire new customers and maintain their relationship over time. So a couple of priorities that I think are very telling with respect to some of these changes, things that merchants are keeping top of mind in terms of KPIs, customer lifetime value, and with respect to priority, site performance is definitely something that's super top of mind, right? If sites are loading too slowly these days, then you have customers that can quickly get distracted and go somewhere else. So we'll see this theme through some of the remaining content I have prepared for you. So let's get right into the combination of Adobe and AWS. Why are these two partners, why is this partnership meaningful for commerce merchants? The benefits of Adobe and AWS are really about unlocking some of these new channels and bringing digital experience to transcend kind of a more holistic approach to relationships with customers. All right, there we go. So AWS and Adobe have a long-standing partnership. It supports products in addition to not just commerce, but lots of their Experience Cloud products, which we'll see in a moment. But the combination of these two powerhouses in their respective fields, both leaders in the Gartner respective areas of platform and commerce. So when we take a look at the breadth of services under the Adobe Experience Cloud, a lot of these are powered by AWS, and so there's a natural synergy with respect to digital transformation for bettering your customer experiences. The Experience Cloud is sort of the enterprise gold standard with respect to all-in-one marketing and customer experience cloud platforms. As I said, a Gartner leader. We see commerce here at the bottom, but that's really just one component of what makes a connected customer experience. When we talk about digital transformation, it's the imperative upon brands and merchants to connect the on-site experience across multiple channels, and you're going to do that likely with other products like these ones you see here in the Adobe Experience Cloud. So let's talk about digital commerce. So I want to step through 4 kind of key areas where we're thinking about optimization and ways to help brands and merchants really accomplish their goals with respect to cost savings, innovation, and meeting the customer where they are as their behavior is evolving and new trends are emerging. So we're going to step through these 4 different topics for digital commerce today and kind of look at some case studies to really showcase where we see customers taking advantage of this better together partnership, Adobe and AWS. So let's start with the first one. To be agile and cost effective, we talk about modernizing and migrating to the cloud. So this is really the first step that we think about when it comes to being able to free up your developer resources so that you're not spending as much time, taking advantage of cloud economics that AWS offers, and then really being able to focus those resources more back on your customer experiences, differentiating your relationships with your customers, whether that's through products, fulfillment, and marketing communication, and all that sort of thing. A few that we're going to, just seeing that maybe there's, okay, yeah. So there's some of the benefits of obviously migrating to the cloud, and kind of harkens back to some of the KPIs and priorities that we talked about earlier, where the growth of online sales is just going up and up as people are less able to get their feet in stores. And with respect to that, site performance is obviously something that's top of mind. So if somebody comes to your site and it's not performing, like I said, you can quickly kind of exit and find products or similar products elsewhere. So this is the type of thing that we're aiming to address when we talk about migrating and modernizing. So Adobe Commerce and AWS, this is a natural pairing, and with respect to deploying this on the cloud, on AWS cloud, you're really going to get the benefits of that commerce platform, the expertise of bringing those consumer or B2B merchandising opportunities, as well as the multi-channel experience that comes with bringing things into the cloud and having data flowing real-time across customer experience channels. So basically, in essence, the Adobe Commerce and AWS, this is a nice all-in-one solution with the synergy of the cloud mixed with a leading platform like Adobe Commerce. Just a few of the KPIs that are nice to see for why customers choose AWS. We've got a long-standing history in cloud infrastructure, managing cloud infrastructure, as we were born out of Amazon.com's business, doing the same sort of thing for them. And we've got tons of customer obsession with respect to price reductions, where we stand our global footprint across regions and availability zones, points of connectivity at the edge as well. It's not shown here, but we're continuously looking to innovate and optimize and bring the best in class services to your businesses that can power some of the features that you might embed inside of Magento Commerce or tangential complementary services. And just a few of the benefits of when you're actually migrating to the cloud, you're going to get some of these key things that are just, like I said, part of the cloud economics of moving to AWS. There's opportunities for quicker innovation, bringing features to market more quickly, and being able to focus those tech resources on things that are going to be higher value add for your business. So let's take a look at a couple customer examples. Ego Shoes is a shoe retailer out of the UK. They have a really unique business model. They drop up to 30 new styles every week. So there's a tremendously high turnover, and because of the nature of their business being very closely tied to social promotion and the nature of things going viral with fashion trends, they struggled with meeting the rising demand when they were managing their own infrastructure. So when they brought their migration to AWS, they immediately saw some benefits with respect to uptime, with respect to scalability and elasticity of the resources they were consuming in order to meet that demand. And ultimately, it results in a little bit better customer experience and stronger business results for that brand. Another example, also in the fashion space, MyDress. They're a Hong Kong-based retailer in the fashion space as well. So they had a similar issue with respect to their infrastructure being managed on-premise. They had a DDoS attack that took their business down for a number of hours. And the results of that were lost business, lost customer trust, and potentially, repeat offense in the same way that would just kind of bring their business way down. So they migrated to AWS, and using AWS's Web Application Firewall, or WAF, they're able to prevent DDoS attacks and maintain tremendous uptime and scalability and elasticity for those peaks in demand with respect to fashion trends for their customers. And just recently, they've added men's clothing, so maybe I'll give them a shot. I don't know how I'm doing, so it might be nice. So the next topic we're going to talk through is increased conversions. This is nothing new to e-commerce. Quite honestly, this is something that there's been specialty vendors and approaches to this for a long time, but When we talk about it, we think about ways to improve the relevance of content, do it more quickly, and we're also looking at new opportunities such as immersive retail. So without further ado, let's step through one that's in the news a lot, the metaverse. This is something that's still pretty early stage. You see some survey graphics here with respect to demographics and interest or awareness of the metaverse. But you can see the blue chart on the kind of right half. About half or more than half of folks are still sort of on the periphery. They're not ready to be immersed in these types of experiences. So what does this mean for us in the tech space and for merchants and brands? This is a great example from an NPR article. Yeah. So this might be familiar to some of you, but for a lot of us, it's still quite foreign. Maybe unless you have kids that play Roblox or something and spend a lot of time in these types of spaces. But this is a tremendous opportunity for brands to engage with their customers, understand behavior, and let customers engage with products. This is obviously just a kind of a extreme example, not something that I'm saying will be the solution or the long-term approach for the brands in the metaverse. But let's take a little bit more of a dissection on what we have today. So this is from a blog post by the CEO of Beamable, a game tech firm out of Boston. But this is a really helpful graphic, I think, in understanding where we are in the depths and the potential of the metaverse. So we're still kind of in this outer layer where you see shopping and experience being kind of the only real thing that's being delivered. Over time, personally, I would expect to see a lot more of the infrastructure and the tooling to be able to support such large graphic files and the networking associated with that, and bringing that to mobile devices and to users everywhere that they are today in commerce contexts. But it's still very early, and so this is something that we're really excited to partner with Adobe on because they're so strong in the Creative Cloud. And they acquired a firm, Brio, just maybe a year or so ago, that's going to be propelling them in that space with us. So really excited about what we have to present there in the future. So a couple of kind of tangible use cases for retailers today. We have this example with the kind of hard goods retail example of something like a faucet or anything that, physical shape, size, and color or texture are key to the buying decision for the customer's interaction with the product. This is something that is a direct opportunity with respect to the Brio acquisition from Adobe. So this is something that is going to, again, increase conversions, gives customers a chance to envision the products that they're considering right in the space that they're thinking about. So obviously not as good for some specific products, but for hard goods and hardline retailers, this is a really cool use case. The workload here is not insignificant, right? There's 2D imagery of products, and we have to then figure out a way to get that to be 3D and to have that exist in a mobile application in a way that customers can easily overlay that into their physical space. So this is something that I'm quite excited by, and there's a few brands that I follow that have dabbled in this. It's pretty cool. Another great example is a more comprehensive virtual physical space of a virtual store. So this would be where you maybe you have a flagship retail store, or you have a store that is otherwise not accessible to all the customers in a region, or a demo that you want to enable them the same type of experience they could come to expect in a flagship retail setting. So this is a lot more intensive in terms of workload with respect to the products that we saw on the previous slide for just kind of 2D imagery to 3D imagery. This is much more involved, and if you think about the digital assets that go into creating this, and again, the networking of that experience across to devices, a little bit more involved. So the stat you see up there for Obsess, that's another one of our partners that's helpful in this space. 70% of consumers who've immersed themselves in this type of experience go on to make a purchase. So sort of driving that engagement to ultimately increase conversions is the intent there. So just to kind of step back from those two use cases that we saw, Adobe, with their Brio acquisition, really awesome opportunity to work with AWS on some of the things that we bring to the table, things like networking and compute, as well as partnering with their other products, maybe like Workfront, to manage workflows and project delivery all the way through to completion. The virtual stores, partners like Obsess, and then aided by service integrators like Accenture. Those are the ways that we're bringing these types of solutions to market. Another example of a customer use case that I really like is Pomelo Fashion. Again, we're really strong in the fashion game, I guess, based on my examples. Pomelo's a Southeast Asian retailer. They employed an Amazon service called Amazon Personalized. It's the same recommendation and personalization engine that powers Amazon.com. And so they brought that to their experience on their website and saw tremendous results. So not just with respect to on-site, but driving engagement, driving product discovery, another one of those features of conversions, and increasing conversions. They're expanding their footprint across product discovery for customers, and ultimately, I think 50% in some product categories, up to 50% of product views were driven from personalized recommendations powered by Amazon Personalized. So really helpful use of machine learning and automation to kind of let technology take on that brunt of that workload that would otherwise be really difficult to manually architect across a whole storefront of product selection. Another topic that's been really popular this week, I've been excited to hear so many folks mention composable commerce, not just headless commerce. But just about a year ago, AWS joined the MACH Alliance, that being the alliance for kind of these principles you see, microservice-based architecture, API-driven, composable commerce, and the headless components. So all those four things together, basically rounding out the opportunity for not just the front-end experience to be tremendously performant, as we saw in I saw some performance statistics shown, but really the ability to then let that information flow to other extendable parts of your customer footprint, whether that's to back office, to in-person customization, maybe to other messaging channels, email, and other things like that. You're really going to get the benefits of all these types of things when you think about composable commerce. So it's not just sort of the front-end performance aspects. AWS is leaning into this. All right, we've got two more. So reaching more customers. I'm just taking a sip. This is an area where it's going to be different for every brand, but when you think about how to get to new channels, how to expand to new marketplaces maybe, there's lots of opportunity here. We'll take another look at some customer examples. JBS was a solution partner that helped Petco, brand near and dear to my heart. They're based in my hometown of San Diego. But Petco had a really strong physical store and online store for web, but they had an initiative that was kind of going slow for commerce and mobile commerce specifically. So they enlisted JBS, and they accelerated their ability to deliver this type of experience for customers and made it tremendously performant in terms of not just being a channel, but also properly merchandising and leveraging cross-sell and upsell to make it a excelling channel for their business, not just sort of an afterthought. Another example is the cosmetics retailer Mecca. So they're another one that leveraged Amazon Personalize. They're an Australian company, and leveraging that service, basically taking advantage of the machine learning that powers Amazon.com and enlisting another partner of ours. They were able to deliver improvements in, I'm sorry, can you make the main slide just a little bit bigger for me, Chad? I'm having trouble reading it with the glare. So in any case, so this was an opportunity where they're not just doing it on site, but they're also going to power other channels with those same opportunities to leverage for recommendations by personalizing emails. So doesn't have to just be exclusive to the on-site personalization experience, but it can transcend to other channels and is something that is often overlooked with respect to the power of these things being done in real time. So great results there for the Australian Mecca brand. Okay, cool. So the fourth and final commerce slide that we're going to take a look at is delivering on your brand promise. We've talked a lot about that with respect to uptime and performance, but really talking about the fulfillment and after the checkout experience is completed, what are the opportunities to deliver on your shipping and fulfillment and quality of last mile delivery type of things. So we'll cover that in a few slides here. Athlete's Foot was a brand that had a tremendous brick and mortar presence. Almost all their products were kind of exclusively sold in and out of brick and mortar. And when they saw the opportunity to get into e-commerce, they realized that they didn't have the infrastructure to centralize inventory alongside retail. So they basically enlisted a partner, Fluent Commerce, and brought together through AWS services, centralizing all the technology and infrastructure that powered their in-store inventory system and used that to be the foundation of their e-commerce platform. So they were able to basically deliver orders from items already in the store, which for them, not looking to invest in warehousing and fulfillment outside of their kind of bread and butter of brick and mortar, this was a great opportunity for them, and they got tremendous results leveraging the power of the cloud. And another brand that's maybe not top of mind nowadays, but in the heat of the pandemic, Party City's kind of potential really took a dive. And so the potential to kind of capitalize on buy online, pick up in store type of experiences for Party City was very important. An AWS partner, Bring, helped optimize some of the fleet management tools from their CMO who had expertise from Hertz Rental Car. And basically pairing together fulfillment partner that Bring offered, enabled the Party City brand to basically deliver on same-day order pickups for their parties. So really cool, if you're thinking about not being able to do some of the things you might have liked to do during the pandemic and having to kind of shift gears and do something last minute, Party City was able to deliver on this with 90% of stores able to support same-day delivery. So really cool story there. Awesome. So just kind of summarizing these 4 key areas that we focused on today. Migrate and modernizing to the cloud to get the agility and the cost effectiveness of what I call cloud economics. That's kind of that core that kind of sets the stage for the ability to focus on more impactful things for your tech resources and your merchants' brands. There's different ways to increase conversions. We just covered a few of them today. If you want to grab a cold drink in a little bit, I'm sure we could talk more about conversion rate optimization and what that means and ways to do that. So look forward to that. Reaching more customers. There's other channels, there's other ways to expand the footprint of what you've done for your on-site experience and making sure that that proliferates all the way out to other channels wherever else you're communicating with customers. And then finally, the last mile and the delivery fulfillment types of things. Obviously, Amazon has other services complementary to AWS services, but things like Amazon Pay, multi-channel fulfillment, Buy with Prime, those are things that merchants are available to merchants to kind of fulfill on that last mile after the checkout has been completed. So just to wrap up, this is a nice illustration, I think, of the kind of journey that we've been on with respect to digital transformation or commerce, the commerce journey. You see some of the tactics and strategies there. Not to say that these steps are at all trivial, and each one of them is kind of a significant improvement, allowing businesses to kind of propel and grow and scale with the power of the partnership of Adobe and AWS. So again, I know we're at time, and you guys have been tremendous and patient. I'm excited to be the one to send us into the activities for the rest of the remaining time that we have this week. Thank you very much, and I guess we have time for a few questions, if there are any.
So the UK shoe store that went from open source to commerce,
yeah,
they were also directly on AWS, right? They weren't were they on Adobe Cloud?
They were self-managed open source, okay. So they managed their own infrastructure, and then they brought their own open source infrastructure to the cloud. Okay. I hope, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious, was it Elastic Beanstalk? Or
Yeah, okay, great segue. So part of my role at AWS is to help write quick starts and workshops so that folks who maybe haven't been hands-on with AWS can bring the tools that they want to deploy onto AWS following best practices, following kind of quick 1 or 2 hour types of formats where you can get Magento up and running using all the best practice architecture guidance in terms of auto-scaling, elastic load balancing, varnish cache, application server, database server, all those things configurable, but kind of on a best path forward. That's exactly the type of thing that I'm helping to build and help improve so that you can see how easily it connects to other AWS services. So we'd love to talk about a quick start and see what it looks like with respect to how it, is it customizable enough? Does it meet your requirements? What types of things you're trying to test when you deploy and migrate to the cloud in order to get the benefits we're talking about?
So is that quick start currently publicly available somewhere?
Yeah, it's recently gone under some updates. I don't know if the updates are completely published, but there's a previous version that is public. I wish I had thought of a QR code to put at the end here to kind of call you all to action. But yeah, the update that I'm working on right now is actually to leverage Terraform rather than the AWS native CloudFormation. So similar sort of infrastructure code management tool. And then on top of that, looking to automate and smoothen the process to embed things like Amazon Personalize, fraud detection, forecast, some of the AWS services that are going to have pay-as-you-go pricing and maybe add some value to merchants who don't have an enterprise solution already in the book. So, yeah.
Hi. So we were talking about 3D preview virtual stores. So is there a specific service that AWS provides which we can make use of and build upon it to implement such features on an e-commerce store? Is there a specialized service or the service remains the same?
Great question, and I'm alluding to it a little bit because it's something that we're working on and presenting more in depth at Adobe Summit in March. So we don't have the service or anything launched ready to share publicly today, but please stay tuned, and if you're attending Summit, look for our booth, and we'll be happy to give you a demo of what's kind of the stepping stone, I think, to a all-encompassing solution for that exact 2D to 3D type of solution that we previewed here. Yeah, and I wouldn't say that it's going to be an AWS service like some of the other things that I mentioned, like Personalize and Forecast and those types of things. It'll be in collaboration with Adobe, given that they already have such a strong footprint in some of the AR, VR, asset management and asset creation with their creative tools. So we would be the kind of foundational tool for networking and compute to process those things, convert them, optimize them, and then host them in your application that's maybe running on the cloud. Anything else?
Really love your talk about leveraging VR and AR for shopping, and how far off do you think that we are from that ability for people to really start to be immersed in it, and what ways in shopping do you think it's going to be adaptable?
Sure. Oh man, I mean, I know if I make a prediction it'll be wrong, but yeah, I mean, I've been to other conferences for other partners in previous roles where I've been gifted VR headsets, and I think the quality of the content, the quality of the experiences are there. I think it's not as accessible to the average person, mainly because of things like networking. To bring those media files into a browser-based experience or a mobile experience, particularly, is a little bit too much of an ask right now. But those, to the gentleman's question who preceded you, it's something that we're working really closely on with Adobe to make sure that as soon as we have the technology there, brands can capitalize on it and start to use it and customize it. I'm not the expert. In fact, one of my colleagues that will be at Summit, who would probably be leading that demo, is the AR VR guru. He's been on IoT projects at AWS for many years, and he's done it in all kinds of contexts. Retail a little bit newer, a little bit different beast, but I'd love to learn more about what you're referring to and broker a connection with him. That'd be awesome.
Thank you. Suppose that you are a merchant that are running in open source with not a AWS service or hosting, and you need to you want to upgrade to a better service and all the steps that you mentioned. What can be better for me that I don't know nothing? It's better to move to Magento, Adobe Commerce Cloud, sorry, or run just Adobe Commerce in your AWS service. What can be better and why I choose your solution than the Magento Cloud entire solution?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't have the product comparison for open source versus enterprise editions of Adobe Commerce, but I think a lot of times it comes down to what you're looking to accomplish in the near term. So we have a lot of customers that will help migrate to AWS. They'll see the growth of their business because they can scale up and scale out however they need to support their increase in demand. And then ultimately there becomes a point at which the feature set of Adobe Commerce Cloud is justified. I don't have a firm number or hard stat to back up what that threshold might be, but there's no, I think the impetus I want to stress is that there's really no risk in going from self-managed infrastructure to AWS managed infrastructure when you're keeping the same license of open source from self-hosted to AWS. So if you had specific milestones that you maybe hit where you have features that are in Commerce Cloud that you're not getting, or you're having to kind of manage multiple things together in order to achieve the same feature set, then that becomes the conversation of what's important to the business, where do you want to grow, and which features are you okay with personalize and forecast as some of those services that you pay as you go with AWS, or is there an interest in maybe some of the features that are a part of Adobe's cloud that they're going to manage all that for you, and you get some enterprise things. There's a big component which is somewhat new with respect to Adobe Commerce Cloud, but it's their extensibility framework on top of Adobe I/O. I think Adobe I/O was mentioned by somebody previously today. So if you're ready to really embrace building on top of something like Adobe I/O in terms of the API first driven nature and composable commerce, that's an enterprise only feature. Not to say you can't get some of the same features out of the open source model, right? Great question.
Okay, so let us give a round of applause to Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.